Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. This podcast features powerful hypnosis, so do not listen while driving or operating machinery. This recording is not suitable for those with epilepsy or severe mental health issues. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and on today's episode of The Hypnotist, it's not going to be me being your hypnotist. I have a guest hypnotist. I'm joined by Cormac Colleran, who is our guest hypnotist all the way from Ireland today. So welcome to the show.
Great to be here, Adam. Great to speak to you.
Amazing to have you here. We're both speaking at the Irish Hypnotherapy Conference in Dublin. We'll touch on that later in terms of what you're talking on. But I'm always fascinated to hear how other hypnotherapists became a hypnotist, got into the world of hypnotherapy. So what was it for you that kind of led you into this very niche industry?
So I guess when I look back, I've always had a great curiosity and into psychology and human behavior. I didn't follow that route initially. I went through business when I studied, and I actually found myself working in the pharmaceutical industry, pharmaceutical and medical device. And I worked in quality of processes and production processes. And in a term that's big in that industry is continuous improvement. And I suppose I might say that I went from continuous improvement of processes into continuous improvement of people. And I certainly say I prefer working with people now than processes. I probably around about kind of 15 years ago, I left a job in Pfizer, one of the big pharmaceuticals in Dublin, and I started to do coaching. So I did my diploma in coaching. And I started working in coaching, worked in coaching and training. And initially I was training like business people, and I was running start your own business programs through a recession here, and helping people to get on their toes. And always, like, my feedback was wonderful because I focused on the business person and I focused on psychology. And what led me then towards hypnotherapy, it kind of came via, when I was doing my coaching, I was learning a little bit about NLP. And I suppose I was working with clients, and you would think you've done some great sessions, and you've set your goals, set milestones, identified obstacles, how we're going to get around them. And what I begun to notice sometimes with clients was there was inertia. And I wondered, like, some of these were highly motivated people, and they still weren't doing the things that they needed to do. And so that led me to asking questions about, okay, what kind of mental blocks are here? That led me then to understanding, becoming curious about the unconscious mind. And so then I started to learn hypnotherapy, and I started to learn hypnotherapy initially to become a better coach. And without necessarily setting out to become a full-time hypnotherapist, that's the way things went. So I started using hypnotherapy with coaching clients. People started asking me, can I help them with this and help them with this? And I kind of caught the bug, I suppose. And
yeah, it happens. It happens. Mine was a similar kind of thing. I was originally, as a child, a teenager, I saw a few stage hypnosis things, and that kind of drew me in. But it was actually learning a lot about NLP and the early Bandler stuff, and then them modeling Milton Erickson. And then you read some of the transcripts of Milton Erickson's kind of hypnosis, and it's just, for me, that looked magical. It was kind of like, wow, how do you do that kind of stuff? And it does draw you in, because I think there's two fundamental things to it. A lot of therapy is slow. If you look at counseling, if you look at psychodynamic, but hypnotherapy works very fast. And I think you sound in the world of coaching and business, you don't have forever to make a change. Things have to be done pretty good. So was it the breakthroughs that you were helping your coaching clients with hypnosis that became a convincer for you to do more hypnosis?
Yeah, I guess you could say so. And you mentioned the thing there about speed, the type of transformations that people can experience just from a single session with you, have this powerful experience. And it was nearly the feedback that was coming back in from clients that was getting me thinking, you know what, there's something big in this. And so um especially like when you get to understanding, okay, there's something other than the normal conscious thinking that's getting in the way. And what is that? And so I started becoming really interested in what's the underlying pattern. So we say, obviously, we all, everyone listening here will have heard the issue is never the issue. And so what is the issue? What's the underlying driver? So when I began to realize and put it together that the subconscious mind, it only does things that it thinks it's doing for us. It wants to do things for us. And so I talk a lot about intention versus strategy. So the intention behind an unwanted habit or thought or behavior or an emotion, the intention may very well have been positive by the unconscious mind when it set it up. If I find myself biting my fingernails all the time, it started at some point, most likely in childhood. The intention in that moment of biting the fingernail may have been a positive. Um, so maybe you're squabbling with your brother or sister, and mom and dad says, don't hit your brother. And your brother hits you and you don't want to hit back because you're going to get in trouble. So you put your hand in your mouth and you do that with frustration. The intention of the subconscious mind was to protect you from getting disapproval from a parent. The strategy was to bite the fingernails. We can look at it with all sorts of habits, addictions, behaviors, anxieties. The intention might be protection, but the strategy doesn't actually create that. So when we look at intention versus strategy,
And sometimes that intention is it's life saving. I remember working with a client who had a suspected heart attack. I helped him to start losing weight, and then he gained it again. But the reason, and I did some idiomotor responses to figure out why was he starting to eat all the foods that nearly killed him? And it's because he got into a relationship when he was slim, and his unconscious, because those relationships ended very badly, was trying to protect him because he'd got this belief system that if he was slim, it would be inevitable that he'd be back in a toxic relationship. So the eating that could lead to a heart attack was trying to protect him from emotional damage in a strange way. And you're absolutely right. It's kind of positive intention, but the strategy isn't the ideal strategy for that particular problem.
And you talk about a heart attack. I do remember an earlier story of a client who, again, a business client who, wanted to do well but kept sabotaging himself. And we discovered that the intention was went back to a throwaway statement from his mum when he was small, when he said, "I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to own loads of businesses." And she said, "Oh no, don't do that. People like that get heart attacks." And it just kind of stuck in.
Yeah, it's a powerful post-hypnotic suggestion, because then sabotaging the business success is preventing a possible heart attack. And a lot of the time, I think the brain is adding 1 + 1 and coming up with 3, but acting as if it's true. And I think that's the cause of a lot of underlying issues.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you've been featured a lot in the media recently, particularly in Ireland, been on TV and the like, for your work in addictions. And I imagine that works in a very similar way, that there is a positive intention, but the strategy is whatever the addictive substance is, and that causes the issue.
And it's very useful, I feel, for our client to hear that, the intention of that part of you. So a lot of work I've been doing has been cocaine addiction. The intention of that part of the user, it's ultimately it's to change a feeling. And so when they understand that the intention is positive, just the strategy that the unconscious mind is using to change that feeling is a very poor strategy. It's a raw deal. It's the very same thing like a phobia. So the intention is, something happened when they were young, and the subconscious mind writes a code into the brain and says, whenever something like this happens, or these conditions are the same again, I'm going to let you know. I'm going to let you know that by giving you tremendous fear. I'm going to ramp up your heart rate. I'm going to shallow your breathing. I'm going to make you tremble. I'm going to give you a message that you cannot ignore. And so when they understand that the subconscious mind should do that if there is a genuine threat, and it feels that that's a genuine threat, and all we need to do is let it know that this isn't a genuine threat. Thanks for looking after the client. Thanks for looking after me, but I don't need it like this anymore. I'm a grown person now. I don't need to be saved from people judging me if I'm standing up to speak. So with regards to the cocaine addiction, it's very useful for someone because there's a lot of shame with it. There's a lot of secrecy with it. There's a lot of damaged relationships, damaged families, damaged lives. It's useful for them to know that they're not all bad, that the part of them that's striving to get that cocaine, to use that cocaine, it does have a positive intent. It's just its strategy is all wrong.
And I think society doesn't really help because we're very quick to label drug users as junkies and kind of losers, and somehow that it's a character flaw in a lot of cases. But, a lot of people that have gone through horrible traumas started taking some form of substance, and that doesn't have to be drugs. It could be food, it could be alcohol, could be, endless amounts of TV to escape emotional pain. That's actually a really good intention, but when that plays out, it leads to, sometimes very unhealthy places.
And as we know, the subconscious mind is only ever in the now. So it's not thinking, it's just thinking that cigarette right now, that line of cocaine right now. It's not actually considering the long-term implication. It just wants its fix in the moment.
It's really interesting because there's a paradox sometimes that actually the positive intention makes sense when you narrow the time frame to the now. But when you zoom out, it normally leads to the exact opposite of the positive intention it's trying to achieve. Yes. And the amount of times that I've seen people that, might be food, might be drugs, might be alcohol, to make them feel good. And you're like, well, what's 10 years of that going to do? How good are you going to feel if you've got type 2 diabetes? How good are you going to feel if you've got lung cancer? And it's kind of like, oh, and then the penny drops, and it's kind of like the positive intention is actually an illusion. It's a bait and switch in a way. The delivery of it is actually taking them to the very thing they don't want.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like to get my clients to consider, I use the term, the real decision that you're here. So if someone comes for help with cocaine, or someone comes for help with smoking, so most people listening here, I'm sure, work with smokers. I ask them to consider, my client to consider the real choice. And I say, okay, you are here to quit smoking for sure, but I think you're here for something bigger. And in order to take a bit of pressure off them, I will also say to them that most smokers I work with, they don't desperately want to quit smoking, but they do desperately want to avoid the consequences of a lifetime of smoking. So that if smoking wasn't bad for them, maybe they'd continue. And that takes a bit of pressure off the client as well, because they kind of know you understand them a bit. And so then we talk about, well, what's the real decision? You are coming here to quit something, but you're not really. You're coming here to choose something, to gain something, to go after something. The real choice you're making here is your quality of life and your future, that for you and your family and loved ones. And that switch of frame can be very useful, because now I'm not losing something. I'm not giving up something. I'm going after something that's important. Well, so I feel that when, like, based on my experience of years working with clients with addictions, that when we switch, when we reframe it, so you're not quitting something, I always say you are, but you're not just quitting something, you're going after something. And you can kind of see it, like, as you think you mentioned earlier, that, the penny drops. And even we'll see the eyes, and we see cues in the eyes that they're kind of creating, they're looking to the future, going, okay, I'm going after something. It's nearly a relief that I don't have to give something up. It's something different that I'm doing here today. And when we then go ahead and attach that to their values and their loved ones, as something clicks inside.
Yeah, it's
I,
the
I
point of threshold, isn't it? It's the straw that breaks the camel's back. It's one, because that's the thing. It's like people assume that change is a long drawn out process, but the actual changing bit happens really, really quick. It's getting
Yes.
people to the point of that change, and you're right. Reframing it so it's not like you're going to need all this willpower to quit smoking, even though it helps when you're stressed and anxious and all this kind of stuff. It's that it's a choice. It's, what kind of future do you want to have? What kind of a role model sometimes do you want to be for your children, and things like that. And once you move it to a different terrain, it's a lot easier decision to make.
We bring them to a place where um, they make, like, I would call it a principled decision or principle-based decision. And an analogy that works very well for your clients is, consider a vegetarian that stopped eating meat because they watched a documentary one evening. They weren't intending to watch it, was on, and they watched it, and it was about a slaughterhouse for pigs. And something happened as they were watching that, and they were a bit shocked. Now, logically, they knew that our animals are slaughtered in slaughterhouses in order to create meat. But once they watched it and got emotionally involved, something clicked inside. And like you said, that only takes a moment, that little thing to click inside. Something clicks inside, and they go, oof, I don't want anything to do with that. And they make that principled decision based on their principles. I'm not doing that anymore. That's not for me. And you can be sure that person that makes that decision is not sneaking a burger on a Saturday night after the pub, and is not sneaking a fry on a Saturday morning. They've made a principled decision. They're not craving meat after that. They're happy with it. They're good with it. And
It's the important thing, isn't it? It's the meaning linked to the thing, because people that have never smoked and never would smoke would look at a cigarette and say, why would I spend money to give myself illnesses and carcinogens and make myself sick in the future and coughing up blood? For them, it's all negative connotations. But for a smoker, that's emotional release. That's a reward. That they've just got different connotations connected to it. And you're right, meat eaters, a burger's a tasty bit of food. But for someone that's made that principled decision, it's, there's that, lots of vegans will use the phrase meat is murder. And if you frame it in that way, it's kind of like, well, nobody wants to be complicit to murder. It's the connotation and the meaning that you give to it, which I think is a really powerful way of framing it. You've created a protocol, a particular process that works with lots of different things. Tell us a bit about your protocol and where it came about from.
so the ICANN protocol with two A's. And the ICANN was just to denote the stages. So we start with an induction, and so it brings them through a corridor of transformation, and there's we use cataleptic arm movement, and we use amnesia. We use a few different things to bring someone from their problem state to a solution. And the idea is that we're getting the unconscious mind to get rid of everything to do with that problem. Again, I look for what's the underlying pattern. So something like smoking. So smoking is, as you know, it's quite an unconscious thing. If someone takes out the packet, they light the cigarette, they do it, they've finished a meal, they do it automatically. They've got 5 minutes to go before they have to go in for a meeting, they do it automatically. They sit in their car, they do it automatically. They pass a certain place on their commute to work, they do it automatically. And what we're looking at is that pattern. So it's linked to certain things. It's linked to emotions, situations, places, people, thoughts. A client would be able to tell us most of their triggers, but there's a lot that they're not going to be able to tell us. But what we know is that the unconscious mind knows them because it responds to them every time they light a cigarette. So this is a real trust in the unconscious. And it's saying to the unconscious, giving the unconscious mind a job to go inside and to clear out and clean out all of the links, all of the associations, everything to do with that offending behavior, habit, or emotion. And we suggest a form of amnesia around it, so that in the times that they used to remember to do it, now they remember to forget to do it. So it evolved for me over, I suppose, close on 15 years of practice. And as most therapists will understand, you're in your own office, you're seeing your own clients, you're working away doing your own thing. You go and you update your training and skills and go to conferences and different trainings here and there. But by and large, you're by yourself in your clinic working away. And I suppose what I realized was, based on lots of different influences I've had over the years, I found myself settling in on a way of working that I hadn't necessarily set out to create, but I found myself settling in on a way of working that worked well for clients. And that, I mean, I've got hundreds of 5-star reviews online from the kind of work that I do. It works very well with clients. And I guess I then decided I needed to codify it. And I suppose through maybe my past in kind of quality and documentation, I was able to codify it essentially and break it into steps so that it is easy to learn and easy to follow. And it's something, Adam, that I now use with probably every client that comes to see me. And it's that idea I spoke of identifying what's the underlying pattern that's causing this behavior, what's the underlying pattern that's causing these emotions or feelings, and going after that and asking the unconscious mind to go in and release that pattern, to release everything to do with it. And we give it different metaphors and we give it ways to do that. And we attach it to an arm in the air, and the arm begins to lower itself as the work is happening. And we coach our client in how that's going to happen. And like I mentioned earlier, the arm in the air itself is a wonderful convincer for your clients. As we know, they're not always sure that at what kind of level of trance they were in, but when something like that, when we create a hypnotic phenomena for them that's unusual for them, it works as a great convincer for them also.
Absolutely. So talk us through the letters, because I'm imagining it's an acronym. So I'm guessing I is induction, C is catalepsy, is it?
C is for the corridor
Corridor,
of
okay.
transformation. And I guess, I played around with ID can to, for the deepener, because I do put a deepener in there. But I can sounds a little bit better, I think. So there's the induction, and we bunch the induction and deepener together. There's a corridor of transformation, and this is where they arrive. So most therapists, again, listening, will understand if they don't use it already. I'm sure they have at some point the staircase deepener, and it's quite a simple one for our clients to follow. And I help them emerge then. I suggest they emerge into a corridor of transformation. We always say it like that. And as you know, the unconscious mind will pick up both if when there's an ambiguity, it picks up both meanings. And we can play with words about when while you're forming trance, you are transforming, and this is the time where you're transforming is happening now. I always get them to imagine that there are screens along the corridor, and these screens were going to future pace what they're going to be like. So a smoker, it might be seeing yourself tomorrow totally relaxed, really content, and I'll get them to hone in, like really hone in on how do you know for sure? What is it about you there that lets you know that you're really content? And we can have them watch screens of tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. So it's a nice way of building that expectation. We tell them the corridor is going to lead them to a new chapter in their lives, but we would frustrate the response. We don't let it happen just yet. So we'll use the word, we'll say soon, but not yet. And during that time, we're we're future pacing and creating visualization. That's the corridor. The A then will stand for the arm. And so we attach the arm. I'll take the person's arm and lift it up like that, and we leave it there. And sometimes sometimes it'll flop back down straight away, but we got to just get it into that position there. You will see, you will have seen, you mentioned Milton Erickson earlier. He uses a lot of that as well, cataleptic arm. So there's the arm, and that's attached to work. It helps to isolate the unconscious mind to do some work specifically for them, where we can take the pressure off the client and say, there's nothing you need to do now. You sit back, relax, and trust your unconscious, and this is what's going to happen now. When that is done, the next A is for amnesia. So we're suggesting that they can forget that old pattern. And I typically in the pre-talk, I'll suggest to them what forgetting means, and I'll say, when you've forgotten something, but it's so far gone that you've even forgotten you've forgotten it. Someone tells you, you're like, oh my God, how did I forget that? So showing them that we can do this, that it's something that we do all the time, that forgetting is a normal part of the human experience. And so we pace amnesia, we pace forgetting, and suggest that to them so they forget. And the end then is for the new chapter in their lives. So they'll come to the end of the corridor, and we'll get them to proudly march out into this new chapter in their lives. And there we can create all sorts of trances of infinite possibilities for them. And we're future pacing again, and we're congratulating, and we're building, and we're getting them to step into that new self and identify with it. And it's very powerful. The very powerful process that we can use for addictions, we can use for phobias, we can use for emotional eating, stepping out of that pattern. We can use for anxieties. We can use for someone comes to you for public speaking fears. Again, it's stepping out of that. Essentially, and the mind likes the idea that the symbolism of the corridor is kind of going from one space through a change and emerging out into another.
Yeah, I like
So
that. Yeah, it's a transition from the old them to the new them, and you future paced the process of change, and then that new future where the change is then made. I think it's a great way of kind of pacing and leading their experience. And I'll tell you what's interesting about the element of the identity. I've worked with a lot of people that have struggled with the 12-step program, the kind of what many people would regard as kind of like the standard when it comes to kind of addiction. But I've always thought it's disempowering from my perspective, looking up from the outside in, to keep the identity of being an addict or an alcoholic even after the change has taken place. And quite often these AA meetings will start with, my name's blah, blah, blah. I'm an alcoholic, and I've been an alcoholic, it's been however many years since my last drink. And it's kind of like, but that's associating into an identity of someone that's still addicted, not the identity. It's not putting it in the past tense and said, I was an alcoholic and I'm free now. What's your thoughts on the 12-step program and the good things, but perhaps the limitations of helping work with addictions?
So I would certainly agree with you there on the identity piece and the disempowerment piece. I'm very much a believer of empowering our client. I'm very much a believer of being able to step out of the old suit of armor, the old skin, and stepping into a new one, leaving that identity behind and moving on into a new identity. Not only that, I think lots of our potential clients out there feel the same way. They don't resonate with this idea of I have to surrender everything to this program. They don't necessarily like that they have to go and speak in front of other people. Some will get into it, and I do think the element of support can be very useful. I work with a lot of people that say, I don't want to be going there. I don't want to be saying things about myself in front of other people. I don't want to go to an 8-week rehab, like, because I don't feel I'm bad enough, or I don't feel I need to, or I've got too much things going on in my life. I can't do that. I think there are serious limitations in those approaches. I think that I kind of feel they're a bit antiquated as well, in terms of like what we now know and what we can now achieve. We can work with clients for a few hours and help them create a whole new identity and step away from those old problems, as long as there's that will. I was working with a young man there. Actually, I saw him again today, and I've worked with him. I saw him a few weeks ago for a previous session around cocaine, and he was taking a lot of cocaine all the time. And um, I saw him maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. He hasn't had any since I saw him initially, but he was telling me that when this guy did an 8-week program in a rehab center. The day after he came out, he was taking cocaine again. He then went to the meetings, and he said they'd be talking about it so much in the meeting that when he was leaving the meeting, he was on his phone ringing a dealer to get some stuff. And I think this happens. I'm not knocking the work that they do there, and far be it from me to do that. I'm just saying that in my experience, the clients that I've listened to have told me that those approaches don't suit them. And I think when we can work on empowerment, and we can work on, I speak to people as well about problem focused versus solution focused. I like to tell someone, okay, we look at where you are now, where you want to be, and what's the quickest way of getting you there. We certainly acknowledge the past. We acknowledge that there's roots to the problem. But I don't feel in all of these cases we need to go back and dig up those roots. We have an unconscious mind that knows what they are because it responds to them. And when we can get that unconscious mind on board, it can say, okay, these are the roots. I can go in, I can clear out those roots. I can let all of that go, and I can move forward.
I agree with you there. I think a lot of the time, but particularly the psychodynamic and psychoanalytical, kind of modalities, have this premise that you need to kind of dwell in your misery and live in the past. And I think, again, that can re-traumatize or reassociate people. And a lot of these things are based on, well, you've got this problem, you've got this label, you've got to live with this label forever, rather than, and I think you used an excellent analogy there, it's kind of like, but that's the old you. The moment, to use your analogy, you leave the corridor, that's the past, it happened, but you're someone else at that particular point, which I think is way more empowering. We're both talking in Dublin in April at the Irish Hypnotherapy Conference. Your topic, I'm guessing, is your protocol.
Yes, it's going to be more specifically around how we're going to apply that to dealing with addictions. I will also be showing people how you can apply it to deal with pretty much anything. I won't go so far to say 100%, but I'd certainly say 99% of clients that I see, they go through this protocol. Sometimes I don't need to. Sometimes, for example, maybe with a PTSD client, if they're aware of the issue, I might just do a rewind technique, and that's enough for them. But this can still even be used for that. So I will be talking about how we use it in addiction. I will be talking about how I use it with cocaine addicts, and I will be sharing how you can use it for pretty much any unwanted thoughts, emotions, or behaviors. This transformational protocol, the ICANN transformation protocol, is very useful. What I'd say to people is it's a great tool to have in your toolbox as a therapist.
Absolutely, I'll certainly be checking it out. I like as many tools in my toolbox as I can have. if you're about to do a demonstration, a hypnosis experience for us, based on this idea of either a habit or an addiction that you might want to change, but if people are curious to learn more about you, Cormac, and they want to kind of check out your website, check out your business, your socials, or anything else, where's the best place they can find you?
So you can get me at DublinHypnosisClinic.com. You'll be able to find me there. I have Adam in progress, and it will be ready before April. ResultsFocusedHypnosis.com. I have that in progress. It's not fully up and running yet, and I will have some training resources there available in the new year. Also on Facebook, you can get me, my name, Cormac Colleran.
Perfect. So check out Cormac there. And if you're interested in seeing Cormac at the Irish Hypnotherapy Conference, the website for that is irishhypnotherapyconference.ie. And if you get tickets nice and early, you get a better price. So if you want to see Cormac, I'll be there as well. Check us out in Dublin. But Cormac, you're about to do a session for us. So I'm going to put myself on mute. I'm going to think of something I want to change in my life. So I'll be going along with this process. Over to you.
So great. So what I would like you to do is think of something that you would like to change. Before we start, I am going to, at some point in the session, in order to get the arm movement, I'm going to ask you to raise your right arm. And I'd like you to raise it just like that, the way I'm doing it. So when you hear that prompt, just raise your right arm, and then I'll explain to you everything that we need to do. Exactly like that, Adam. Thank you. So now you can consider anything, whether it's an addiction you want to get rid of, whether it's anxious thoughts you want to get rid of, whether it's a phobia. I am going to do this. Typically, I would do it specifically towards a certain thing, but for the purposes of this podcast, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it as open as I can so that everyone that's listening can get some benefit from this. Now, I'm not going to bring you through a long induction. I suspect the fact that you're listening to this, you've probably already gone into hypnosis. You have a good idea of how to go into hypnosis. So for the purposes of this, I'm going to do a shorter induction so that you can actually really get the benefit of the actual protocol. Okay. So as you close your eyes and settle into your chair, just take a nice big deep breath in. Filling up those lungs completely. Hold that breath for a few moments. And notice as you exhale how the shoulders can relax. And you can give yourself permission to relax now and begin to let go. Because maybe you already know how to go into hypnosis. You know that you can sit back, relax, and go into hypnosis easily and effortlessly. And you may already recognize what it feels like inside to sit back, relax, and let go into hypnosis easily and effortlessly. As you become aware of the rhythm of your breathing and the rate and tempo of your breathing, perhaps even the sound of your breathing as you listen inside. Because when you focus on your breathing like this now, it can allow you to turn your attention inside more deeply now, so that you can start to really become aware of those signals and sensations already occurring throughout your body that just let you know you are relaxing now, deeply and deeply relaxing. That's right. Now, if you draw your attention to the very top of your head, you may become aware of that relaxation moving through the scalp. And as it flows down over the forehead and the eyes, really begin to feel that calming relaxation, knowing the muscles around the eyes are some of the easiest muscles in the whole body to relax. The jaw muscles now, allow them to just release all tension. That's right. And as it flows down into the neck and shoulders, it flows out into the arms, the hands, and the fingers. And if you draw your attention right out to the tips of those fingers now, I'm not sure, but you might just become aware of a sensation out there that allows you to relax even deeper. And maybe you've noticed the relaxation traveling down your back. Or maybe you start to become aware of it now, as those good feelings all continue now, deep into the chest, stomach, on into the hips and the legs, upper legs, lower legs, feet and toes, all relaxing down calmly and deeply and calmly, all the way down. All the way down, that's right. Because you know now that you can enjoy this process of letting go. There are many ways in which you can go into hypnosis now. And I just want you to know that whatever way that you go into hypnosis now will be perfectly fine. You might be aware that it's happening. Or just as easily you can go into hypnosis now without even noticing it happening. It's a bit like that point at which you just drift off to sleep at night and let go and drift away. And we can really deepen this experience now. And I'd like you to imagine that you're standing at the top of a staircase and you're looking down. And some people can visualize this very easily, and other people just get a sense for it. I'm going to count from 10 back to 0. With each number that I count, I'd like you to imagine that you're taking a step down that staircase. And with each step that you take, you feel yourself relaxing more and more deeply. 10 to 100 times deeper with every step now. From 10, 9, 8, drifting deeper and deeper. 7, 6, and 5. That's right, all the way down now. All the way down. 4, 3, 2, deep, 1, and 0. You could imagine just dropping through the center of that 0, all the way down. Or at the bottom of that staircase, you find yourself in a corridor of transformation. Corridor of transformation is where your transformation happens. And as you are forming trance, you are transforming on an even deeper level. There's nothing you have to try to do now. You don't even have to try to listen to my voice now, because your unconscious already is hearing all of these words and it's processing them for you, which means you can drift away and my voice will go with you as you do. And become aware along that corridor of screens, like big screens, like TV screens. They might be on one side of the corridor, they might be on both. And I want you to see yourself on one of those screens over the coming days, having left that old habit or behavior behind. That habit or behavior or thing that you want to change, having left it behind, see you as you are now, content and happy and relaxed. Now, this corridor is going to lead you to a new chapter in your life where you're free of that old problem completely. And it will lead you there, not yet, but very soon. Now, I want you to notice specifically what it is about that you there that lets you know for sure that you've left that old problem behind. Maybe it's something that you're doing or not doing. Maybe it's a look in your eyes, an expression in your face, something that you're saying or that you're not saying. Notice what it is specifically that lets you know for sure that that you there is living in this new chapter, free of that old habit. And as you continue along this corridor, forming trance, right now you are transforming that deeper level inside. That's the deep level of your unconscious learning now also. And you know this somewhere inside. Become aware of another screen and another screen. And these screens are showing you yourself as time goes by, free of that old habit, and completely free of it. Having left it all in the past. Notice what it is about that you there, how you're living your life, how you are, how you are being that pleases you. And in order to make this transformation and this transition a really easy and enjoyable one for you, there's an important job I would like your unconscious now to do. I would like your unconscious to go inside and to break all links and associations to that habit or behavior, to visit all of the events, all of the experiences, the thoughts, the memories, the ones that you remember, the ones that you don't, the ones that are conscious, the ones that are unconscious, everything to do with that unwanted habit, pattern of behavior. And to begin to clear them out, to break all those links and associations and to let them go. Now is the point at which I'd like you to raise that right arm in the way we mentioned earlier. Raising that right arm in the way we mentioned earlier. And Adam, you can raise that arm also now. Hearing my voice, Adam, and you can raise that right arm. And anybody that's listening, raising that right arm into that position that we spoke about. And now going deeper inside. Some people imagine it like going into a tunnel or a cave with a big power washer. Washing out, clearing out, and cleaning out everything to do with that old problem. With that right arm in the air, washing out, clearing out, everything to do with that problem. That's right. And I would like the unconscious now and the unconscious only to lower that arm for you only at the rate and speed that it fully deletes everything to do with that unwanted problem. All of the events, all of the stories, all of the experiences, everything attached to that unwanted problem or behavior or emotion or pattern of behavior, to let it all go. And I don't want you to help that arm, nor do I want you to hinder that arm. It will now begin to lower itself all by itself as this is happening now. And there is nothing that you need to do right now. You can simply sit back, relax, and trust your unconscious now as it does this for you. And that arm will take on a life of its own out there and will lower itself all by itself. And you can be aware of that happening if you wish, or you can continue to just drift away deeper and deeper and deeper. Because there is nothing you need to do. It's like when you pull the plug on the bath, the water just drains out of the bath all by itself effortlessly. There's nothing the bath needs to do. There's nothing you need to do right now. As that happens, that arm lowers itself all by itself. Because you are now breaking all of those links and associations to that unwanted pattern on a deeper level. That's right. Feel that happening now. You're breaking all those links and associations on a deeper level. That's the deep level of your unconscious learning now. And you know this. You know this somewhere inside. That's right. Breaking all of those links and associations and letting go of the unwanted pattern for good. So that it disappears. So that it's gone. And I'd like your unconscious now to go a step further and to throw a whole blanket of amnesia over everything to do with that old pattern. So that you remember to forget all about it. To simply forget about it. You know how easy it is to forget something. You've forgotten more than you know, right? Forgetting is a normal part of a human experience. You could forget a name that someone just told you, or a number you once knew. There could be details about something that were there in the past and they're gone now. Or have you ever in your house gone to your bedroom to get something and you know exactly what you're going there for, but as soon as you go through that door, it's like it's gone, it's vanished, it's disappeared clean out of your mind. Or there was something on the tip of your tongue in a conversation you're about to say it, next thing it's gone, vanished. So your unconscious now can remember to forget Forget that old pattern, that unwanted behavior. Forget how to do it, when to do it, where to do it. Forget it all. So you're remembering now to forget what you're forgetting to remember, and let it go. And let it go. And it just becomes a thing of the past, forgotten about. In fact, what you're going to notice is the harder you try to recall what it used to be like, the easier it is to forget all about it and let it go. The harder you try to recall what it used to be like, the easier it is to forget all about it and just happily let it go. And that corridor now is coming to an end. And I want you to notice that just up there ahead of you, you can see double doors opening for you. Written above those doors is the word freedom. And before walking through, I want you to contemplate that word freedom. Maybe you can already begin to feel it inside. Now, I don't know how you might recognize that feeling of freedom in your body right now. I don't even know where in your body you can feel that freedom growing. All I know is that from this point forward, it does, and you do feel that freedom growing stronger and stronger. And along with that sense of freedom is a sense of acceptance of the decision that you've made here today. Acceptance of this new identity, of this new way of being. Now, again, I don't know where you can feel that acceptance inside, or how you might recognize acceptance growing inside of you. But I can tell you, over the coming days, weeks, months, and beyond, that sense of freedom and acceptance grows with you naturally and effortlessly. You don't even have to try to think about it. So imagine now that you are walking proudly, confidently, purpose in your stride. You're marching through those doors, out of that corridor, out into this new chapter in your life. See this new chapter in your life. Notice how you're becoming the person that you wish to be becoming. Begin to notice the benefits already coming into your life from being this person. Notice the sense of achievement, the sense of pride, confidence. You'll notice in this new chapter, you go through your days every day, more and more proud of yourself, more and more confident in yourself, calmer inside, more relaxed than you've ever been before. Stepping up, stepping in. This new chapter has begun now. You get to really enjoy it. Now, in a few moments, I'm going to count from 1 up to 5. And you know what that means? When I get to 5, your eyes are open. And they open with a smile, they open with energy, open with good feelings. You are now in this new chapter in your life. That old chapter is in the past. That old you is gone. You've come through this corridor of transformation. You have transformed. You are in a new place in your life right now. You're in a new chapter. Congratulations. Feel good inside. Feel strong, feel positive as I count you from 1 and 2, leaving that place, that inner world behind. 3, feeling more energy, good feelings, sense of achievement and accomplishment flowing through your body and mind. 4, nice energy. And 5, eyes open all the way and feeling wonderful all over. And welcome back.
That was a good.
And Adam.
I was definitely deep there. That was a great little session there. What are the things that you're calibrating as you're going through that? What are you looking for, kind of like posture or the speed that the hand goes down? What are you paying attention to?
Yeah, so I suppose I mentioned there with someone last week. I think it was Malcolm Gladwell wrote the book about the 10,000 hours, and it's kind of intuitive now when I'm looking at someone um, to have an idea of like where they are, how receptive they are, and that might be one worth codifying. But any other hypnotherapist that's spent tens of thousands of hours in one chair looking at someone in another chair, they get it intuitively. So I'm looking to see that they're coming along with me, with checking the little expressions. Sometimes you get a little smile of kind of approval along the way. With regards to the arm, the only thing the only kind of intervention I do is if it goes down too quickly. So sometimes the arm is so dead that it won't stay, and you've got to use the person's name and you got to say, Adam, there. and it'll do, no, there, no, there. And then they get it, and it's just locked there. And I do look out for, if I feel there's conscious interference and the arm just goes down, you can kind of tell. And if that happens, well, I want to be respectful. So if that happens, I'll put the arm back up and I'll say, I'm not sure whether that was conscious or unconscious mind. So I'm just putting it back there again. Sometimes it's ready to go and the arm goes down really quickly and it's gone. Typically, it's 2 or 3 minutes making its way down. Sometimes it can be 10 minutes or more. I always like to attach it then. If it's a long time coming down, they might have thoughts in their own mind. My arm isn't moving. Why is it not moving? They might have those thoughts. So the things that I do, take the pressure off completely. I don't know if you consciously recall the metaphor of the baths with the water draining out. But that's to tell them, like, there's nothing the bath needs to do for the water to drain away. There's nothing for you to do for the habit to drain away. So we want to take the pressure off them completely and let them just be in the situation, be in the moment. We're holding that space for them. If it's a long time coming down, I will congratulate them on having an unconscious mind that's so thorough and that does all of that work for them thoroughly. If it comes down quickly, but not too quickly, I'll congratulate them on having an unconscious mind that really knows what it wants and is going after it. And a lot of the thing is taking the pressure off. We know from doing kind of trance or different things ourselves, like, you can feel under pressure, and once you're told there's nothing you have to do, you can drift away. It's a nice permission, and it allows us and allows your client that space to let happen what needs to happen.
I really enjoyed it, and I think it's a very good simple framework, because you've got that kind of induction, you've got the deepener, there is the at some level the metaphor of the corridor, but equally it's one of those, again, you've got several analog kind of things in there. The distance of the corridor is an analog, the length of time that the hand goes down is an analog, and that element of, well, they're going to go at their own pace, and what they see in the images of their future pacing, that's what they want their future to be. I think it's a great protocol. So I'll definitely be seeing you in Dublin to learn more about that. Remind us again, if people want to check you out, Cormac, where can they go for more information?
So you can get me at dublinhypnosisclinic.com. You can also check out resultsfocushypnosis.com. So Results Focus Hypnosis is more where we have the training materials, and the Dublin Hypnosis Clinic is my private clinic.
So if you want to work with Cormac, that's where we would go. And if you want to learn from Cormac, then check out the other one there. Cormac, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show today. Great session there, and I will see you in Dublin in April.
Likewise. Thanks very much, Adam. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Take care.
Thank you for listening to The Hypnotist with Adam Cox, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. To automatically receive the latest episodes, please subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, please share this episode with just one friend you think it could help. And if this episode helped you, please leave us a 5-star review.